Mhayivava Jarakula in Bacha, the Runa City, Wonim Amkelaka, the channel that matters, the channel that matters the most, the only channel that matters to watch. Me, Garabalo subscribe, and in Matimba Mkansi, Langako, and Mangona Mani Bramang, Kulamun, Logostakashi Shoma Jongo, Mzarwa the Book, and Nigel Lumar Diaktala, and now I'm Kela as I'm Kilikile, and I was forgetting. The curriculum of Black Excellence na Team Black Tukumeka Queen.
Alright, Afshin, when Silva channel
Maya
channel Mhayivava yakukwana. So Vito Matimba Mkansi Nzarwati Buku Letindiri. Look Mulati Buku at the moment I'm the main distributor. So you can contact me on 061 651 1346. WhatsApp now call, or you can check for me on Facebook Matimba Mkansi, and then you can inbox me there. Then you can arrange for delivery.
Okay, email I think black.
Okay, Lewa 200, and then Lewa the new one is 250.
Okay.
Mara logo t-shirt 13 euro, that discount the year of 400. And then Korea is 60 rand.
60.
So 13 euro plus delivery for 60.
For 60.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Twin say I shall into Google Dewa that is a remuleri. You will now who pieces are I guess the one language could continue to give a quite. Alright, no, was I mean a Comela means you cannot shop when what's at Bugner. You see what I'm notifying on the ground. We don't really believe with bullet Taliban. Who may want Taliban about something, what. So, my head and you are moving with Queen. So, once of time.
Okay. New Mabush, I could book. Marazarian Torui at Zanin. So, look, we're not 2 years moving from Zanin, Yabush. I couldn't book specifically. Learning at Jonzago School, in a full job primary school in Andaveni, I am primary, and then after that in the National Biani, learning the medicine science. And then after that, I came to Vet University in Diamond Jones of the engineering.
Okay. You didn't pass on engineering?
I'm not passing, the person passing not degree and then especially no email and masters. Yeah.
No email.
No email. I submit a card and things. So
the requirements.
Yeah.
You were the first engineer when I'm says
Family and inquiry. Angarela, cousin, kuna engineer before me. My cousin is the first graduate, first engineer. In fact, he is inspired for me to become an engineer today. So, my cousin, I was 14 years old. He came to the house. I cousin. So the figure finally into my house.
Yeah.
The very first thing after the greeting, so over that statement, so it made me feel proud. The engineer recognizes me as someone who's traveling his journey.
Wow.
So I was inspired by that, to be recognized by someone. Since he was a genius, it made me feel like, oh, shouldn't I be
genius elements with it.
Shouldn't I be genius?
That was so true.
Yeah.
When I miss Kholofelo, in one of the videos I watched on Facebook, you called him like a brand ambassador because he has put your the profile picture of the book here. I think black from 2017 till today, and he does not have your picture by side. It's just him appreciating the work. What do you have to say to such a person?
I'm grateful to Kholofelo. Kholofelo is someone who is a reader. Like as far as my work is concerned, I edit, I proofread. It's just someone who bought my book and then read it and he liked it and then he recommended it to other people. And the bravery of him to actually put my book as his profile with its intimidating title, Think Black, Act Black, or Mhayivava. I just appreciated that, you know, because Shakala believe I went to that extent, you know. So that is why I call him an ambassador. I inboxed him on Facebook, and I realized, well, you have put my work out there. And not only that, in fact, behind the scenes, Kholofelo does talk to people, and he has influenced people to buy my book. So it's more than just someone who posts a picture, it's someone who's actively involved in the work that I do. So I appreciate him for that.
Okay, before I get into the curriculum of Black Excellence, and Think Black, Act Black, why was it titled Think Black? What was the purpose of the book? Just give us a summary. We again in the book letting why as well send me the book we buy me some select book and I'm making enjoy a book with just the background of an understanding. Okay, there is Think Black, Act Black, this is the line. So we just want an overview, not just the details of the book.
No, I'll just give a brief overview. I'll start it like this. Think Black, Act Black is divided into 3 sections. Your blackness is not your weakness. White man is not your master, which is one of the most famous section of the book. And then government is not your mother. So the whole idea of the book was to encourage a psychology of self-reliance. It was encourage the psychology of self-reliance. And I look into interpersonal skills of the black person. You know, because I believe that until we transform, obviously, our thinking and how we see ourselves, our habits on a daily basis, until we transform those, we will not be able to transform society. So that is why I say let's think black, and then once we're done, once we have these ideologies, once we have this understanding of what it means to be black, including the struggles that we face, let's not end there. Let's go on to act. So act based on your liberated thinking, which is why it's called Think Black, Act Black.
Okay. So, I don't know whether I should ask this question, but let me just ask him. Are white people welcome to buy this book and read it because they are more excluded?
Okay, let me put it like that. The phrase, the section which I call "White Man is not your master." Funny enough, it's actually a recommended reading here at the university for sociology course for engineers.
Wow! Congratulations for that.
Thank you so much. So this goes to show that we cannot bury challenges under the carpets.
Yes.
Certain things must be called as they are, and then certain conversations must be had. And in White Man is not your master, I want us to have that conversation. You know, I want us to have that conversation. Why am I saying white man is not our master? It's because society has structured certain races as supreme, and then automatically certain races they behave as inferior, and that is not good for if we're going to talk about a rainbow nation. Therefore, we need to dismantle that hierarchy in terms of race. So definitely, white people, if they want to learn about how to relate to the black person, since we all claim that we're part of a rainbow nation, then it's good for them. They must read it. Yeah.
Okay, just shortly, we most of us depend on government. I don't understand why. Maybe it's an incentive for me to go and read that section. Yeah, government is not your mother, because I believe that I must depend on my mother from the childhood, and then as things go beyond my mother, I must depend to the state. So I just wanted to put a comment on that, and then I'll just go and read the book.
Government is not your mother. It's enough a statement.
Thank you. This year, 10 May 2021, you released a statement on your official page on Facebook, which is Matimba Mkansi. It's Matimba Mkansi.
Mkansi Mkansi.
Okay, not Mkansi. Matimba Mkansi. And you released a statement. It was your birthday.
Yes.
I don't know how old you are. You said this year I'm going to release a book, and I give this book to black children. It's a gift to black children. Why was it a gift to black children?
Okay, so I think let's look at the concept of a gift. Look, what make a gift? in most cases, it's something that you treasure and value because it adds value into your life. You see. So when I call this book a gift, the curriculum of Black excellence, it was after studying the conditions of Black people within the context of my book, and realized that something needs to be changed. And then I went on to research and develop the book.
Okay.
You know, this is content which you cannot easily find elsewhere. So I believe that it will be of value to the Black children because of the power it has to transform or to help them see things differently.
Yes. I fully understand that. I think the curriculum of Black excellence, you are so obsessed with yourself. Or you just love yourself too much.
No, it's not that. We are Black. We are Black because of colonialism. Before that, we were Africans.
Okay.
When colonialism came or oppression came, it forced us to see who we are within its context.
Oh, okay.
So Black, it's a name which was given to us in order to undermine our humanity. So when I address challenges which came as a result of oppression, as a result of being undermined as a people, I don't want to go behind the corners. No, I want us to be straight. If it's HIV, we say no, this person is struggling with HIV, let's give him ARVs. If it's someone who's struggling with mobility, we give them a wheelchair. If it's Black, it has to be called Black, so that we can be able to address it as it is. So that is why me, when I talk about challenges, I don't want to say as a people, because some challenges are not applicable to everyone else. They are not applicable to the white person or to the Indian, using a normal definition of Black, to other races. So if you want to address challenges of a specific race, we need to call it by name. That is why I use the phrase Black, because I'm addressing specific challenges of that particular race.
So that's the reason why this book was titled Black Excellence.
Black excellence, no, it's not really that direct.
Okay, before you can answer that question, because in my understanding, sometimes when you, like in the book, there's a section where you speak about before any other excellence, there's human excellence, and then you narrow it or reduce it to Black excellence specifically. Don't you think like you are reducing it to a particular group? It's more like you are reducing our excellence to be Black. Like it's so, because the way people see as if Black people are not smart, Black people are that, Black people are lazy.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, so it's more like we are being reduced to that Black excellence that is perpetuated in the society.
Oh, okay. So, Mr. Mhayivava, look, let's not start this book, the curriculum of Black excellence. There were a lot of motivations why I decided to write, but one major one was the curiosity I had about the Black excellence concept, because it was there. And you'll be surprised, as I studied the concept of Black excellence, I realized one common thread across all the people who were classified as Black excellence. And that thread is the kind of achievement that they've reached. It's outstanding, not debate, it's outstanding. But then it was rooted on the struggle of the individual. It was rooted on the suffering of the individual. When you bring a contrast between Black excellence as it was defined and excellence, which by default is white excellence apparently, you realize that white excellence is not rooted in the suffering of the individual white person. It's actually a struggle which is rooted in the system. So this is the comparison that I've realized, and I realized that actually Black excellence is something that is rooted in Black struggle. Okay. Yes, and then which is why it makes the achievement of the Black person to be different from the general achievement. And then when I dig into literature, I found out that there are various reasons why it is called Black excellence. One of them is that by default, if you do not categorize that an achievement which is outstanding is achieved by a certain group of people, the assumption is that it is white excellence. So for example, if they say
I was confused in the cancer example.
I
was confused in the cancer example.
Oh, okay. So, for example, let's assume someone come up with a cure for cancer.
Yeah.
They just mentioned, or a scientist developed a cure for cancer.
Okay.
The assumption is that that person is most probably white.
Yeah, that's normal.
And then if maybe someone did something which is not so good, maybe they said cars were robbed, were hijacked in brown people.
Yeah.
You don't have to mention the name. The assumption is that someone would be there is probably black. Yeah. So when I was looking into literature, I discovered that there was a need for black people to start celebrating their achievement. Yeah, there was a need for people to start celebrating their achievement, which is why they started to title their excellence Black Excellence.
Oh.
To say, we see excellence in the world. All the credit goes to the white space. We need our own credit for our own hard work.
Yeah.
That is one reason which I've discovered that why is it called Black Excellence.
Okay, in the Johnson, the guy was suffering and he has his own ambitions, which he wrote about here in the book. A lot of the ambitions are Quincy Johnson. Just go and read the book or buy the book, and then you will get it there. But he achieved something which I don't want to mention. I want people to come and read the book. He achieved something, and it was inspired by suffering. Are you saying that our sufferings are going to inspire us to achieve whatever we say, like to achieve our goals?
Alright. So when I talked about the story of Quincy Johnson, which is a very touchy yet at the same time inspirational story, it was an attempt to make people realize that when we talk excellence, we are not talking about only getting high marks or achieving, maybe buying the best car in the world and then people classifying it as excellence. There are various forms of excellence that are out there, which is why I went through them. One of them obviously is outstanding achievement. If you look at Usain Bolt, he's the fastest man in the world currently, I think. His excellence is the one which is recognized, but there are other forms of excellence, like excellence which you can achieve without being the best, without being a top learner, without being number one, without actually being put in a scale of comparisons. And this is where Quincy Johnson's story comes in. He achieved excellence without being number one. His kind of excellence is not the one where you say he's better because Mhayivava what is behind Nyana compared to Quincy Johnson. His excellence is unique. So there are various forms of excellence, and a life of commitment to positive change could be a form of excellence, just like that of Quincy Johnson.
I really understand. And it's so touching. And if you go back to the village, like the primary goal of my mother was to make sure that I go to school, or was to build 3 rooms. In comparison with herself and her goals, she achieved that.
Excellence.
Thank you, Sabo. In the book, you speak about individual excellence, but the way you explain this whole concept, from my understanding, is that, let me put it this way: what is the goal of Black excellence? When will you be like, today I'm happy that an African child is fine? To give you a little background of it, and in the conversation that you had with Kholofelo, he says, I'm looking forward to your 3rd book. And then you responded that as long as there are still challenges, I will still write books, I will still address those challenges.
Okay.
When do you think you will stop writing books? When will you be in a state where you believe, okay, today I feel like the country is fine, Black people are safe, Africans in particular?
Okay. So to answer that question, Mhayivava, I need to look into the second motivation of the concept of Black excellence. Initially, I said that Black people tend to use the phrase Black excellence to celebrate their excellence as people. But there's another reason of why, there's another reason I discovered of why people use the phrase Black excellence. and this is not in popular culture, it's not popular out there. It was my understanding of the whole concept. When I dig into the kind of people in society who are classified as black excellence, I realized that there's something common about them. And it is that the kind of excellence that they achieve individually as people is the kind of excellence which forces them to go through certain suffering as individuals.
Yeah.
So their individual black struggle colors their excellence, black excellence.
Okay.
So you ask the question, when is this, when do we reach utopia, like where we say everything is perfect? For me, it is when we talk of excellence or black excellence, and we are talking about the kind of struggle which is not rooted in the suffering of the individual. But we talk of black excellence as the kind of struggle which rests on the shoulders of a system, and then the system be the one to take care of the individual. So until we shift our mentality from individualistic thinking and individualistic struggle into systematic thinking, I feel like we have not arrived until we reach that state. Well, the reason I'm saying this is because when you look at, let me just say, white excellence, you'll realize that the people who are achievers in the white spaces are mostly people who, yes, who work hard, yes, but these are people who are assisted by the white system in most cases.
That's true, that's true.
The struggle that they go through, it's a struggle which, yes, it weighs on them, but the large part of it is weighed on the system.
Yeah.
Whereas when it comes to the black person, they suffer alone, and then when they make it, it's black excellence. So I wish for us to reach the kind of excellence which is systematic, so that the black child who's growing today must not go through the same struggle to reach the same level of excellence with someone else that we celebrate in the black community. Yes.
Alright, Are you a politician?
I wouldn't say I'm a politician, but by virtue of me engaging in this kind of dialogues, maybe tertiary politician, not primary, not secondary, tertiary politician, yes.
Okay, so you're engaging in politics, because politics are usually, like, the political system is the one that is designed to address the issues that we are speaking about. So if someone says you're a politician, he's not making a mistake.
We are all politicians, I guess. You know, if we have to go buy food and then we say, no, let's buy this, and then we debate about it, that's politics.
Okay.
But formally, I'm not an active politician.
Yes.
Like I said, indirectly, I am.
Okay.
But I would like to identify myself as an engineer. I like to engineer things to happen, not speak things.
Wow. Why write books about politics instead of writing about engineering things, about structures and all such kind of things? Because you have so much money that you can just invest in what you were studying in class. Like you, and there you had most background, unlike this, you knew nothing about this.
Unfortunately, I need to correct you there. In fact, I know more about this than engineering.
Why?
Because I live as a black person. You know, so when I go there and I experience things, when I look at you and then you tell me your story, when I talk to someone, they tell me their story of being black in the spaces, you realize that actually there's a lot that needs to be done. So that is when I realized that the people who are trying to bring about change in this world are not necessarily people who are trained to bring change.
Yes.
These are people who say, you know what, this is wrong, or this needs to change, let me do something about it. And then I also noticed that it is also possible for me to bring my own knowledge from engineering into the struggle.
Yeah.
Actual science, right?
The accounting science.
Accounting
I
science.
wish.
Okay, you bring your knowledge of accounting science into the struggle, and someone else bring their medicine into the black struggle, because the struggles that we face as black people, they are everywhere. We cannot afford to let the humanities to fight the battles for us. We need to come in as the hard science and bring the knowledge that we have and see how can we engage in the struggle.
Yeah, and I think you're making a very great point, because if you stand for us and you give your own perspective about how let's say for example, black students are suffering in engineering, no one was going to do that. But if someone is doing that, then like, oh, okay, these are the issues. Because sometimes a politician, for example, Julius Malema never went to school. He knows nothing about life, but only politics. I'm just saying it. He knows nothing about life or accounting, or all he knows is politics. But you need to have the right people behind him, who an accountant, what economists, so that he can transform a good state if he was a president. Just give an example of it. So I think it's a very good thing that you're doing that. But I will give an example of Cyril Ramaphosa. Cyril Ramaphosa's politics is to go where the power is and implement things where the power is. That's how he helps people, because he uses the resources that he has to help people. What is your aim with these books that you are writing about black people? How is this going to help black people in general? Not a particular, yes, a particular society's black people, but not just people who are just reading only. How are these readers going to help implement what you speak about?
Okay. I think you're asking this question because I said I'm not a politician. Were wondering if I don't have access to parliament, maybe like Ramaphosa. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
So I believe in individuals, in individual black people. I believe that we all have power to bring about change wherever you are. You know, it doesn't matter whether you're in parliament or whether you are educated or not. Where you are, if there are challenges, you can do something about that. So I believe that if you have the curriculum of Black Excellence, where I outline some of the ways in which I believe we can achieve excellence as a people, you can bring about change in those particular spaces. So now, can you imagine enough people on the ground having the right ideologies, having the right mindset, having the right attitudes and actions? They can influence change from the ground going up. So if I'm a politician, I would like to say I'm a politician of the grassroots.
Oh, wow.
Not the politician of the policies up there, but I like to influence change at the grass level, and then let the people on the ground influence change in their communities, into their societies, and into the nation.
Wow. I'm so inspired. Wherever you are, you have the power to implement change. Just get the right solution. You speak about challenges in the book. Did you provide solutions? You know, sometimes you can move to watch a story and it doesn't have solutions. Did you provide solutions to the problems? I don't want you to mention the solutions, but did you give them tools? These are the tools you must use to fight. Whether you are in business, you must fight like this. Whether you are in, maybe you are in a farm, these are the tools, even the general tools. Do you have those tools in there?
I'm an engineer. We solve problems. We solve problems. So I don't want to profess to have answers to black challenges.
Yeah.
But when I address an issue in society, I address it holistically. You know, for example, in chapter 3, I talk about decolonization of the mind. I address my understanding based on research of how the mind is captured.
Oh, okay.
You know, I go into detail. In fact, chapter 3 is the longest chapter in the book where I talk about decolonizing the mind. You know, because I believe that until we liberate the minds, you know, you can be in white spaces, you can be a CEO, you can drive a German machine, you can be respected. But if you are still not liberated here, you will remain a slave. So I outline how the mind was captured, and in the process of me outlining, you will be able to see, moment, in order to reverse this thing, this is how we do it. Okay. But I don't just suggest, I actually go on to suggest how can you decolonize the mind, how can you free the mind. So as much as possible, I try to put out the solutions out there, and equally make recommendations of what can be done. Because I'm only an individual scholar. I also challenge the reader to say, what do you do in a situation like that, given this scenario, in this scenario, in this scenario? because one thing I've noticed is that black children are smart. They are smart black children. And if you can challenge them, they can actually even come up with a better solution than what you provide. I do offer solutions, but I also challenge the black child to say, I know that you're capable. In your situation, given this scenario, what can you do? And when I say black child, I'm not referring to youth, I'm talking about everyone as Africans. So yes, as an engineer, I'm compelled to put solutions, but I go further to challenge you to come up with your own solutions.
Alright, we can challenge you, and we'll try our level best in our spaces too. As the Songa was, why did you critique the educational system in South Africa? Don't you think that will come against to maybe government can say, why did you do that? Why didn't you maybe return, send an email to them formally to challenge them? Because one thing that I hate about the educational system, especially in the primary and high school, because in your book we outline that these things sometimes they might seem not to be assisting, in a sense that after something else, what must I do? So what I hate about me is that sometimes you do history of other countries, you're not being told about your own history. How are you going to get liberated when you don't know yourself?
Okay.
If there is no this book, how am I going to reverse those things? Because if you didn't have the book, then what was I doing? So why did you critique the book instead of approaching the right department?
Alright, so one thing that you must understand is education and the schooling system within its context, how it came to be in the continent of Africa. Education and the schooling system was a very fundamental aspect of colonialism. It was designed to make the colonial project efficient. So colonialism is it's a history, our history basically, where white people came from Europe to Africa and colonized or take charge of African people and rule over them. That's what I mean by colonialism. So during that process of capturing Africans and capturing their spaces and ruling over them, they brought education which was in line with their objectives. What were the objectives? The objectives was to make sure that there is no rebellion against their rulership. It was to make sure that the people never conceptualize the idea of freedom from such spaces. So we still have the remains of that education system of conformity in our society today. I feel like there is a need for us to transform the education to move away from saving those historical elements into addressing the issues of today. For me, an education which does not align with the needs of the people, it's useless. We need to look at the challenges of society, look at the challenges of black people and say, how do we align this education to address these challenges? This is why I critique education. I feel like there's a bit of a misalignment between the reality on the ground and what we're taught. You find a graduate who's smart coming out of the university, but their education cannot help them deal with the issues that they're facing in society. Not only job, lack of job, but even the simple thing of how to communicate in the family. This is a challenge that you're facing. Your education should empower you emotionally to address the issues of the family, because that is the challenge in the family. If so basically, I'm not treating education as it is. I'm saying that let us use it to address the challenges that we're facing in our society. That is called decolonization. We are moving it from saving other power structures and into saving our own needs as a people.
So, do you think the current educational system does address our problems as black people? For example, you see someone like Iniesta. It's a successful person. Whatever was doing it excellently so. And that was because he went to school. Like Mbappe went to school, like Messi, they went to school. When they were at school, they were given the resources to do whatever they were good at. Not everyone is a reader like you. But do you think, well, in South Africa, we don't have that. You only see someone in Kaizer Chiefs when they are 35. That time you are a normal retirement age for footballers is 32. So do you think the current educational system needs to address or needs to be changed, or is it fine like that? We must only develop scholars like you
No. Okay. Mandela even education is a powerful weapon that you can use to change the world. I think along those lines.
Yes.
I'm misquoted.
Yeah.
But then it's true, like most of them, they can improve their life conditions. But it's not everyone. It's few people. My concern is we have got graduates from South Africa who are unemployed, but when you check what they are doing with their education, there's little that they can do. They were trained to go look for a job. They were trained to go serve. They were trained to, like I said earlier on, the education was designed to serve the colonial system. So even today, you still have graduates who come out of it not determined to go do something, but to go serve. I don't want to blame the graduate and say, no, like, why don't you think you're an engineer, go design something. If you look into the curriculum, I address it there in one of the chapters, educated but miseducated. If you look into the curriculum, it is close to impossible to be innovative as a graduate of our current education system.
Yes.
It is close to impossible to go out there and say, let me create this because I have this knowledge from engineering or from science. So for as long as our education does not unlock self-reliance in the black community, it doesn't unlock innovation capacity. For me, it still needs work. So to answer your question, I would say we are not there yet. We still have work to do.
Do you think it's painful to be a black person in South Africa?
In South Africa?
Yeah.
To be black in the world. To be black in the world, to be African in the world, it's a challenging thing. In China, in America, in football, to be black is a challenge. It's painful. Seeing the kind of experiences that black people go through. But what is more painful for me, it's not the struggles that we face. What is more painful for me is to be black and ignorant. If you are black and you're not aware of how you can tackle your struggles, that is more painful. To be black with potential that you have as a black child, but not being able to use that potential to solve these challenges that you're facing or to deal with the system that is oppressing you, that is more painful. So I believe that even though we come from a history of oppression, we come from a history of suffering, we have got power to change these circumstances. We need to unlock our minds so that even though it's painful, we can do something about our conditions.
Was interview ni kensengo kupuvamendi opportunity yakoni interview interview. By the way, you're the first person interviewed with a person that and it's such an inspiration for us as blackies to be inspired and to get knowledge how to address it. Like not everyone can think like you. Not everyone can invest the amount of work that you put to write these books, the amount of resources that you spend on these books. Selling it at 200, less than 300. It's a gift indeed, and we really appreciate that. Bugule mina na owner, he signed it himself. If I don't know if that's one but it reads as follows: Dear Mhayivava, the progress of Africa lies within the potential of our free mind. I think you have that potential. Rise, black child, rise, and he put his signature. I'm so grateful that he wrote that to me. It says Dear Mhayivava, even if it's going to everyone, but it's very much more important to get this book. I read the book, I enjoyed. The reason why I enjoyed this book is primarily because it speaks to me. The introduction of the book doesn't speak about something that happens in something. It speaks about something that I do every day. Something that when I'm with my fellow students, when I'm with my young people at the same age, we communicate with such things. And then, who is black? It's me. Think black, act black, I must do that. So I encourage everyone to buy this book. wherever you are, this one is 310. Delivery free. So look around Bram, it's 250, right?
Yes.
Yes. This one, I think black, egg black, is 260. Fleet delivery, wherever you are, I'm going on the call. Look around Bram Fontaine or around Job again, I'm figuring it out. 800 rand. Look at 460. Garna deliver. Like delivery free. We can get that along at the Kumoko. And I shall and enjoy them and learn and let's implement whatever you wrote in the game play the book in why the cancer one for them Zimta Figala. The shadow minimum and Yamula and no and answer at the end. No one disability. The Munakara planning the land association and the cancer and go.